Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, The Monarch Witch. I'm Tanisha, and the purpose of my channel is to clear up any fear or misconceptions that surround witchcraft and spirituality. Just like the butterfly, our spiritual purpose is also to grow and transform into the most beautiful version of ourselves. I channel information from my spirit team, as well as draw on my own life experience to help guide you on this journey. Just before we get on to today's topic, I want to give a mention to a friend of mine. Her name's Belinda, and she is actually the person who introduced me to the spiritual community. I didn't know anything about spirituality or that there was a whole community there to connect with if it hadn't been for her. So thank you so much for that, Belinda. Belinda actually owns a shop, and all of the tools and services on that shop have such loving intention put into them. So I would really recommend you to go take a look at that. She actually uses her guides and like her spirit team while creating these things as well. If you're interested, I will put the link for her shop in the description below. It's called Soulful Spirit. So today's topic is about the dark night of the soul and the Ascension process. And I want to talk about this topic because many people are going through it right now with everything that's happening on the planet and the raising of the frequency of the planet. I also want to talk about it because it can be a very painful, difficult, uncomfortable process. But the reason that it has to happen is so we remember our true self and our true soul's purpose. So although it's a hard and painful experience to go through, the reward at the end of it is so worth it to raise our vibration so we can be our true, authentic self, and to raise the vibration of the planet and end suffering. So the first thing that needs to happen is an ego death. And what this means is everything in your material world that you have been externally validating yourself with or attaching to yourself as your identity will drop away. And I don't mean that it will drop away slowly. I mean that it's all going to drop away very, very rapidly and very quickly. I like to describe it as the tower moment, referring to the tower card in tarot, where it's utter chaos and everything is just falling apart. And that card represents the chaos and falling apart of the old so that the new can come in. And so that you don't feel so alone, I'd like to share with you my experience of the ego death and the tower moment. So what first happened in my life was that I met a friend who I instantly recognized from a past life. And I'd never had this occurrence before of just meeting someone and so clearly knowing that I'd had a past life with them. So that was the beginning. Because then what happened was I started remembering past lives, which triggered the ego death, because if you've had past lives, then you're not just this person, this identity now. You see, as spiritual beings, we're multifaceted. We're not this one identity. We're the identity of all the lives and all the experiences that we've had. We're sparks of God. We're omnipresent. And the ego self starts fighting that, because the ego self exists. So that then triggered also remembering my true soul's life purpose before I got distracted with all the material things in the world and with everything that I had attached to being my identity. So when I say that you're awakening to your true soul's purpose or your soul's true purpose, I just want to make it clear that I'm not saying everything in the lead up to that was pointless. Everything that led up to this moment of your soul awakening was lessons and guidance for this to be able to happen. And so if you've reached this point of the ego death and the ascension process, you can give yourself a pat on the back, because it means that you learn all your lessons, cleared all your karma, and did the work to get here. What I'm referring to when I say our soul's true purpose is our soul's true purpose for this specific time. Everything in the past led up to this time. Once I remembered my true soul's life purpose, everything in my life I realized wasn't fitting in with this purpose. Everything in my life was a distraction from this purpose. And so the very next thing that happened was I couldn't hide who I was on an authentic level anymore. The very next thing that happened was friendships fell apart. Friends that I had been people pleasing with and bottling up emotions with, not letting them know that I was upset about things, or being too afraid to tell them about the spiritual side of me or the witchy side of me. I didn't feel like I could talk to them about any of these things because they were also distracted by the material world and hadn't yet had their ego deaths. So that was the second thing that happened, was the friendships fell apart. So I met someone who triggered an awakening of the past lives. Then the friendships that weren't solving towards the friendships that weren't aligning with me anymore fell apart. These were some of my closest friends as well, friends that I'd been friends with for years. And then the very last thing that happened was the job that I was in. I just wanted to try and stay there because I loved the people there and I had loved that job, but all of a sudden it wasn't aligning with what my soul's purpose was. And so no matter how hard I tried to stay at it, because it was a very big part of my identity as well, having been there for a long time, made many friends there as well, I just couldn't hold on to it anymore. That was just such a strong soul's calling towards doing what I came here to do and not being distracted, that I ended up leaving the workplace as well. So that was pretty much how it happened in order. Was meeting someone who treated their weight in the past lives, losing the friends that didn't align with me anymore, and then leaving the job that didn't align anymore. And so by the end of it, you don't have anything outside of you to attach yourself to anymore. No distractions from all the shadow work that needs to be done. And so you're forced to go into hermit mode, which is another tarot card reference, which means basically disconnecting from the outside world and going within. And so because you're forced to go within, that then starts bringing up all the shadow aspects of yourself. You can't escape from it anymore. There's no distractions. So the shadow aspects of yourself are usually attached to trauma or negative things that have happened in our life that have been running in the background of our life without us being aware of it. So all of this is brought to the surface. And then this is where shadow work comes in. Now, shadow work is going to help you get through the ego death and come out the other end with a raised vibration and knowing deeply who you are. So I'm going to share with you what some of my shadows that I had to work on were and still are, because the thing with these shadows or insecurities or traumas or, you know, whatever label you have for them, is that for the length of time that, you know, you were in these negative situations or these traumas happened to you, from my own experience, I believe it takes that length of time to heal it. So say, for example, you were in a narcissistic relationship for 4 years, then I believe it's going to take 4 years to heal the shadow side of yourself from that happening to you. So it's not a quick process. We are, you know, constantly evolving, and this is why even when we're awakened, you know, there's still more healing to do. So one of my biggest shadows was being really insecure with myself to the point that I did and said and was who everybody else wanted me to be instead of who I wanted to be. And that's not to say that, you know, none of me was real. Like, I did genuinely want to be kind to people, but it was to the extent that I was being kind to people when it was detrimental to myself and not in my best interests. And here's the thing as well. Being insecure in yourself, particularly if, like the example that I gave, that you have been in relationships with, and I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, I'm talking about family relationships, friendship relationships with a narcissistic person, you do become a people pleaser because you think that you're always having to give to please people, that you can't voice any negative emotions to people. I'm really sorry if it's taking a while to get this out, but it's not an easy thing to share. And the thing about this people pleasing as well is it's not actually fair to other people either. And I watched a video from Aaron Doherty, who is a YouTuber, and he talks about, you know, narcissists are known to be people who are all about themselves and manipulate others for self-preservation. You know, they outwardly usually manipulate and hurt others. But he talks about people pleasers being just as bad and actually being quite manipulative as well. As well. And that is the truth, because if you're sort of doing everything or being someone to get people to like you, then you're not being 100% real with them, which isn't fair on them, because if they don't align with who you are, then it, you know, kind of stops them actually making friends with people who do align with who they are. And yeah, so I just wanted to quickly share that, because that was like a big realization that I had, that it's actually manipulative to be a people pleaser as well. As much as you're trying to be kind to others, there's kind of something you're trying to gain from it as well. You don't want to lose the person, you know, you want them to love you. And it's more fair to be your authentic self, which, you know, can at times mean saying no, can at times mean speaking up when you're upset about something. It's fairer to be yourself and give them the choice to decide if they want to stay and if they want to, you know, be friends with you, rather than taking that choice away from them by pretending to be someone you're not. I apologize for any of the noises in the background. Sometimes I try and do this filming at nighttime when my kids are asleep, but other times I have to do it when they're awake, because you know, information gets channeled to me and I just have to do it when the information's channeled to me. So thank you for understanding and being patient with that. So I've shared with you one of my shadows, and that's only one of them. Like, we have multiple shadows, multiple traumas, multiple negative things that have happened to us. But I just wanted to help you feel, not so alone, and just understand what some of the shadows can be and how difficult they can be by sharing that with you. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about is, how do we start to do shadow work? How do we even recognize what our shadows are? So the very first thing that I would recommend is letting yourself feel any emotion that wants to come to the surface. Don't try and suppress it. Don't try and distract yourself from it. Let yourself feel it. And this is going to be very painful at first and very difficult, especially if you've bottled up a lot of emotions. But they need to be able to come to the surface. And once you do let them come to the surface, do let yourself feel all of it, I assure you that it will be such a big relief and release for you as well. There are certain things that can help in aiding you being able to feel these emotions, because sometimes we've blocked them off for so long that it's hard to get them to come to the surface. So one of the biggest things that I used was actually music of any kind. So I know there's a lot of talk of not listening to negative music because you're trying to stay in a high vibration, and the negative music will put you in a lower vibration. But sometimes I feel like the lower vibrational music of anger, sadness, all of that is needed to help you in being able to feel these emotions. And there's other things that you can do as well. There's lots of videos here on YouTube that are meditation videos and clearing trauma, speaking to your inner child, meditation videos like that as well, that can be very, very helpful in being able to feel these emotions. Even just sitting quietly sometimes can help as well. The two other things that really help me are writing, what's called free writing as well. So just writing whatever thoughts, whatever feelings come to you. And it's also important to be, non-judgmental of yourself in this process as well, and non-judgmental of these feelings, and just observe them. So the last thing that I'll talk to you about that will help bring these shadows and emotions to the surface is actually water. Water could be very helpful. So like being in the shower, I just feel like because water is, linked to emotion, that's just very beneficial as well. Like, I know so many people, and myself as well, that, when you're feeling yuck, sometimes you just want to have a shower and cry in the shower, and the water kind of helps sort of wash everything away as well. Okay, so I've talked about bringing all of the emotions and all of the shadows to the surface. So once they have come up to the surface, now is the time to try and understand the shadows of yourself. Understand why they're there, and what they want. It's like we're taught for so long to suppress anything negative, especially in spiritual community. They can be like what's called toxic positive spirituality, or spiritual bypassing, which is not acknowledging anything negative. But it's important to know that darkness can be a teacher as well. And oftentimes when we've had trauma in life, darkness and those shadows can actually be there to protect us from experiencing any more of it. So, in one way, those shadows help, but in a lot of other ways, they're harmful to ourselves and others as well. So, how do we understand these shadows? Try and make friends with them, because to understand someone, you've got to have a conversation, you've got to make friends with them. A shadow is energy. It's essentially entities, energies. So we can do the same. We can have a conversation with it. One of the most beneficial ways for me was actually psychology and therapy, to try and understand what these emotions were, where they came from. I am not a licensed psychologist. So if there is anything that comes to the surface that is extremely traumatic, and put you in an extremely negative place, then I would definitely recommend seeing a psychologist, to try and understand that. That helps as well. So once we've understood why the shadow is there, then it's time to let it go. So I want to talk to you about a little exercise, well, a few exercises that I do to be able to let the shadow go once I've talked to it and understood why it was there. So one of these things is actually to thank it. Thank your shadow self for all that it has actually done to protect you, for trying to protect you. But explain to it that you are not in that same time, you are not going through that trauma, and you are safe now. So you don't need it anymore. That has been very helpful, because, as I said, your shadow self, which is essentially your ego or your brain as well, is often trying to protect you from experiencing that same trauma. So what has often happened is that your brain, your ego, starts taking full control, and your soul is not leading anymore. Your soul is in the background, but that's actually not meant to be the case. Your soul is meant to be the leader, and your soul is meant to be using your brain as a tool to navigate the world, because your ego is actually needed. It's how we are able to have an individual experience, but it's not meant to be the leader. Our soul is still meant to be in the lead, because our soul realizes that we are connected to everyone and everything, and that all actions have reactions. Our soul understands karma, so our soul is meant to be leading, using the brain as a tool to navigate a world of individuality. So once you do this work of thanking the shadow and letting go of it, your soul is able to step in and take the lead again. So the other two rituals that can help you in being able to let your shadow self go are when you do the free writing, what you can do is you can read out what you've written and then burn the paper. Okay, it's important to read out loud what you've written, because I feel like speaking something out loud is also releasing and letting go of something. So you speak out loud what you've written, and then you burn the paper. Okay, and make sure you're in a safe environment to.
And we
Sorry. Do you want to say a quick hi?
Yeah.
You say a quick hi to everyone.
Hi.
You say hi.
Hi.
All right. Can mommy do a video now?
Just trying to say hi to my teeth.
Just hi to your teeth. All right. You go sit down and watch your cartoons. Let mommy finish her video. Okay. So what I was saying is it's important to make sure you're in a safe environment if you're using fire to burn the paper. The reason that we use the fire is because the fire is actually symbolic of burning away the old, what doesn't serve us anymore, so that the new can come in. Because if you think about a bushfire, it is very destructive and it destroys a lot. But it also is the reason why some new plants, and new things can grow. So that's what the fire is symbolic of. And so once you've burnt the paper down as far as you can go without obviously getting your own hand while you're holding the paper, then you use water to wash the fire away. And the water, as I talked about when I was talking about being in the shower, is cleansing it away as well. And so you can also do the letting go as well in the shower with cleansing it away with the water. You can also call in any of your, spirit team, any of your guides that you feel comfortable with. You can get them to help you visualize white light being with the water as well, and sort of washing away any of those negative emotions that have been brought to the surface. And you can visualize that. I usually visualize that as like black running down into the drain. You can also use like a salt scrub as well, because salt is very purifying as well. Okay, so this here is a bundle of sage, and I just have a nice little shell that I can sit it in, because you can just sometimes sit it in places to cleanse areas as well, but that's not the topic. So to use sage to cleanse away your own negative emotions, I like to imagine the negative emotions being picked up by the smoke. As you put it all around you, the smoke transforms them into light, and they go back to where they came from. So that's just a quick little ritual with the sage as well. And the very, very last thing, is actually an egg cleanse. Now, a YouTuber on here, his name is Uncle Bronze. He has a really good detailed video about how to do an egg cleanse as well. And that's doesn't just come in handy for your own traumas and your own shadows, but if anybody else has projected their shadows or negative energy onto you as well. And all of this healing, all of this letting go of these shadows is helping you raise in vibration higher and higher and higher as well, because you don't have all of this heavy stuff, weighing you down. And while this heavy stuff also sort of blocks you from experiencing your soul as well. So just quickly before we wrap this video up, I just want to actually really encourage commenting on my videos, because I feel like discussion is what creates understanding and change. And that's what's really needed to raise the vibration of this world and end a lot of the suffering. So please feel free to comment on the video, any videos of mine, and I'm happy for like any negative comments and constructive criticism as well, because, you know, I'm happy to hear anything that might help me improve my videos for you as well. So with that being said, thank you so much to anyone who has liked, shared, or subscribed to my channel. And if any of this resonated with you, or any of my videos resonate with you, please like, share, or subscribe to my channel. And yeah, thank you so much for watching,